Evening all. Happy Saturday evening. Welcome back to my fireside. I do apologise if you can hear some rattling and smacking of lips off camera. It's the boy enjoying his treats and biscuits. Let's stick some music on. A live album, another eBay purchase, not a chronological one, but I felt like something a bit upbeat tonight. And there's nothing like this kind of music for getting me in the mood. You'll already know that I'm a bit of a fan of Benny Goodman, the clarinetist. I played the legendary Carnegie Hall concert from 1938 a few weeks ago. And tonight we've leapt forward 24 years. Unbelievable, the span of these people's career. And couldn't get much further away from Carnegie Hall if we tried. This is Benny Goodman in Moscow. The first American jazz band to visit the Soviet Union in 1962. And here's Benny and the boys taking it to people that were probably pretty starved of outside culture. Were a very appreciative audience. I'm smoking another one from Tim's Box of Bounty. This is a Leon Jimenez Imperiales from the Dominican Republic. As you can see, I've smoked an awful lot of it already, but I'm enjoying it a lot. Now, I'm no cigar connoisseur. I mean, my palate is about as dead as a plank of wood. But even so, I can get the vanilla and the cocoa coming through on this. Most enjoyable. Thank you once again, Tim. I'm going to be thanking you a lot for quite some time to come, because I'm eking these out. I'm not just banging them away every day. I'd love to know though, from you cigar aficionados, what do you do with cigar butts? Because you've got quality tobacco, but you have to give up smoking it, you know, about an inch or 3/4 of an inch away from the end. Seems such a waste, and I'm a very frugal type of chap. Not quite sure what to do with it. I hate to throw them away. Now once again I'm drinking, yes boy, Abbott Ale, my old standby, my go-to beer. Cheers, long life and happiness, and to you too, boy. Cheers. No, you can't have it. You're too young. Pretty sure old codgers in the old days though, they used to go for a walk with their dog down at the pub, and the dog would always get a saucer full of beer. My dad probably did it. It's not good for you. You'll end up like me. How's everyone doing? Thank you all for your comments on my last video, and wishing me well, because I was down in the dumps last night. Feel a bit better today, and I've got my daughter coming to stay tomorrow, so that always perks me up a bit. Yes boy, yes, and you too, because you get bored, don't you? He gets bored with just me. He's only a young fella who wants a bit of excitement in his life. So yeah, I'm feeling more upbeat tonight and enjoying the music. I switched the television on earlier, excuse me, just to check out whether there's anything coming on later on tonight that I might be interested in. Once again, they seem to be on permanent rotation now. Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings films. So I caught the last bit of Return of the King, which I ended up sitting and watching, even though I've got all the director's cuts on DVD and have done for a long while. Some of you will know that I've always been a big fan of Lord of the Rings. It was, you know, one of the first serious books I ever got into, and then branched out from there. And I think Peter Jackson, I dreaded it because I'd read the book so many times, I couldn't tell you how many times. And I was dreading it when I heard that they were making a live action film of it. But then of course this was the dawn of CGI. I mean, prior to that it had been pretty much impossible to do it. And I have to say, I saw all 3 films and I bought all 3 director's cuts on DVD. And for a massive fan of the books, I think he made a pretty good job of it. There are certain bits that niggle with me where he's toyed with the story, but you know, you have to allow a certain amount of artistic license. But yeah, I think I've related the story beforehand about at the tail end of the 60s when The Hobbit was going the rounds, was being passed from hand to hand. And I read it, loved it. Read the blurb at the front which mentioned this book, The Lord of the Rings, about how The Hobbit was just a prequel to a much more serious work. Went into a book fair at school and saw a book on the desk, on its own, on a stand. I didn't know they made books that thick at the time. It was the first single edition volume of Lord of the Rings, came out in 1968. And I know, God knows how I got the money together, but I bought it. This is not the copy. I think I've related this before. The copy I bought, I lent to my sister's boyfriend. Don't ever lend anybody your books or your records. And I never got it back, he lost it, because he lent it to somebody else. So that was the replacement he bought me. So it's not quite the original, but it's the same version, it's the same edition. And absolutely loved the book. So much so that my dad, in a rare display of interest in me, I think it was one Christmas or whatever, bought me. I haven't got them all. I haven't got them all down from the shelf. All 3 volumes in hardback. I think this was 1970. Big fold out map at the back of Middle Earth. Mention of Tolkien's other books on the back. Absolutely fantastic. All getting a bit yellowed with age now, as am I. But, you know, apart from a couple of years around that, I didn't really stick with the fantasy genre. You know, those were the books, but then I branched out. I mentioned the other week how read MASH, got into Catch-22, and it all just blossomed from there. Because let's face it, literature is such an enormous field. I could never confine myself, like music, I can't confine myself to one genre. Now, having said that I enjoyed the Peter Jackson Lord of the Rings films, his Hobbit trilogy, or as I would call it, his Hobbit travesty, an outrageous money spinning exercise. Martin Freeman was great as Bilbo. I thought he was absolutely fantastic. And I loved Stephen Fry as the Master of Lake Town. And I can't remember the name of the actor that played Thorin Oakenshield, but also really, really good. Bringing Legolas into the book was a downside for me because he was obviously not in the original. And then I know they were trying to emulate the superhero franchises that were going on at the time, but turning him into this ridiculously overpowered one-man army, it was just taking the mickey. Somewhere I've still got the original Hobbit paperback, but I don't know where. But I also treated myself in the mid-70s. It's the hardback with some lovely colour illustrations in it. Colour plates, rather. And that's another treasured possession. But whereas I've reread and reread Lord of the Rings many, many, many times, The Hobbit, well, it's a children's book. There's no, I mean, it was never meant to be anything other than that. And I've read it a few times, but it's not something I'd dip back into. But I might go back and read Lord of the Rings again. I haven't read it for quite a few years now. I just think it's an exceptionally well-written book. The only other fantasy genre that I've ever got into was actually in recent years. Everyone was raving about Game of Thrones on the box, and I couldn't see it. I didn't have the channels available. Now, my brother-in-law is a big, big reader, and I respect his taste very much. And you know, he wants it like me, reads a broad range of books. And it quite surprised me when he said that he'd read the Song of Ice and Fire books by George R.R. Martin, and said they were incredibly well written. I was a bit dubious, but I got myself Game of Thrones, the first one, and read it and was hooked, and read all of them in about a 2 or 3 month period after that, from first through to last. They are exceptionally well written books. I mean, yeah, I agree with everyone else, he could do with a decent editor, because, you know, he gets sidetracked and one thing and another, and you end up reading a great long chapter and get back to where you were right at the beginning with nothing actually developed. But very, very good books. And like everyone else, I'm still awaiting the 6th instalment. The Winds of Winter, the next instalment, which was supposed to be published in 2016, and he's just recently said it's not going to come out this year. But if you haven't read them, even if you don't like the whole fantasy genre thing, I highly recommend them. They are extremely well written books, and he's got a great ear for dialogue. Absolutely fantastic. Oh, it's getting a bit hot now. Burning my lips. Where were we? Or where was I? The Game of Thrones books, yeah. Highly recommended. Now, I said this is going to be a quick one, and we're already running up time, so I better knock it on the head. Better have a drink. Thank you once again Had a great recommendation from Terry Pinpiper for some other music to follow up. Mississippi Fred McDowell. And David, Rogue Bear, has given me his recipe for beard oil. And I'm definitely going to do that because I've been a bit guilty with the old beard oil of I ran out some time ago and haven't used any since. So it's getting a bit wiry. So I'm going to follow his recipe and hopefully make my beard silky smooth. But the smells that he's used, the scents he's used, patchouli, bergamot, you know, they really ring the bell for me. He says, that just sounds like a bell, doesn't it? It's all association, it's all going on. It might look like there's nothing happening on the surface, but it's all happening in here. Oh dear. Lovely smoke. Any road up, I suppose that's it for another week, isn't it, boy? See, what are you doing, boy? Yes. No, he's not interested. So I'm going to call a halt to this one. He's got his ball now. Fortunately, it's his ball. And I'm entering waffle mode once again. By the way, I hope you picked up on the fact, anyone that's interested in getting a vinyl restorer. In that video the other day, I said it was called Vinyl Clear. Now there is one called Vinyl Clear. It's not the one I've got. The one I've got is called Vinyl Revival, which is alcohol free. And I believe the one called Vinyl Clear does use like IPA, it uses alcohol, which apparently does get your records clean, but it can damage the surface if you overuse it. So Vinyl Revival is the one to look out for if you're in the UK. If you're not in the UK, then just look out for an alcohol-free vinyl cleaner. Well, I'm going to have to put that down. I don't want to say goodbye, but I have to, because I've run out of things to talk about. So it only remains for me to say, wherever you are, whatever you're doing this Saturday evening, hope you're having a good one. A quick weather update on the UK, because I always like to stick the weather in. It's turned cold, it's come down with rain. So my early celebration of the summer was a bit premature. But there you go. I'm going to go and get the last out of this that I can. And yeah, what I have done, I'll just say this quickly, with a couple of cigars, is taking a pipe, and when it's getting down low, I've popped the end in and smoked it through the pipe and got it down as low as I can, because once again, I hate to see good stuff going to waste. But that's all, boy. We're finished for tonight. I don't know what I've talked about, probably a lot of garbage, but I hope you've enjoyed it. Enjoyed it as much as I have. I wish you all well, you and your loved ones. Have a great week. Ta-da.